Hi, I'm Catherine, a 38-year-old novelist who crafts mysteries and lives a life many aspire to. My books have garnered a loyal readership, allowing me to support my family through my writing. I've been married to Peter for 10 years, and we share a 9-year-old son, Stephen. In the early days of our marriage, Peter held a steady job, but he decided to leave it behind as my career began to flourish. For the past few years, he has mostly remained idle, spending his days engrossed in pachinko games. Recently, I stumbled upon a shocking revelation: Peter has been unfaithful, using my credit card to buy lavish designer gifts for someone else. I've tolerated his behavior for our son's sake, but I've reached my breaking point. I can no longer stand by and watch. It's time for a change. This change was sparked by an unexpected turn of events, one that involved someone I never imagined would step in to help. One day, I noticed Peter dressed unusually well in a suit, which was quite out of character for him. Intrigued, I asked about it. He seemed momentarily caught off guard but quickly regained his composure, saying he was heading to a job interview. "It's time I started working again," he declared. I wanted to believe him, to think he was finally motivated to contribute to our family's future. I wished him luck and returned to my writing, facing an urgent deadline. Hours passed, and it wasn't until 2 a.m. that Peter finally returned home. The late hour and his vague reference to a job interview left me with more questions than answers, and I knew I couldn't let this go on any longer. It was time to confront the reality of our situation and make some difficult decisions for my well-being and Stephen's future. That night, Peter stumbled in, reeking of alcohol and perfume. He flopped onto the living room sofa, his smartphone slipping from his fingers, unlocked and vulnerable, consumed by suspicion. I couldn't help myself. I picked up his phone for a quick glance. What I discovered was a gut-wrenching shock, undeniable evidence of his infidelity with my best friend, Nancy. They had been enjoying a romantic dinner at an upscale restaurant just hours before. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. How could both Peter and Nancy, who was also married, betray me like this? Tears threatened to spill, but I fought them back, unwilling to wake him. Quietly, I transferred the incriminating photos and messages to my phone, needing to gather my thoughts and strategize my next steps. The following morning, I confronted Peter as if nothing had happened. "Hey Peter, you mentioned an interview yesterday but came home pretty late. What gives?" He shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my gaze as he searched for an excuse. "I ran into a friend after the interview, and we went out for drinks," he replied. When I pressed him for details about this friend, he brushed it off. "Just some guy." "Catherine, do I need to explain everything?" "Of course," I replied, biting my tongue to suppress my frustration. His evasiveness only fueled my determination to address this situation with as much grace and strategy as I could muster. A month has passed since that devastating discovery, and the weight of Peter's betrayal still lingers heavily on my heart. I haven't confronted him yet, knowing it could irreparably fracture our family. If it were entirely up to me, I would have already shown him the evidence and demanded a divorce. But with our son in the mix and the tangled emotions involved, I've had to tread carefully. I know that whatever I decide will change all our lives forever. Despite the turmoil within me, the thought of separating Stephen from his father is unbearable. Peter's frequent outings, ostensibly to clear his head or meet friends, actually provided me with the perfect cover to gather more evidence of his infidelity. One day, while he was out, I decided to rummage through his things and uncovered a pile of receipts for luxury women's items, gifts I certainly hadn't received. None of these expensive items were in our home, leading me to the painful conclusion: Peter was showering these lavish gifts on Nancy, my so-called best friend. But the mystery deepened. How was he financing these extravagant purchases? He hadn't worked in years and was living off the modest allowance I provided from my earnings. Concerned and desperate for answers, I hatched a plan to follow him. I called my brother to watch Stephen, masking my true intentions under the pretense of needing a shopping trip. "Hey, sorry to bother you out of the blue. Can you watch Stephen for a bit? I want to go shopping alone," I asked. My brother, taken aback because I usually preferred online shopping, raised an eyebrow. "Shopping? You've never been one to shop in person. What's going on?" "Usually, yes, but today I need to grab something from a store. Can you keep an eye on him for me?" I replied. He agreed, but reminded me not to be long since Stephen might get lonely. With my brother's help, I set off to track Peter. I found him downtown, walking arm in arm with Nancy, entering a high-end designer store with disconcerting familiarity. Watching them together, a wave of hurt and anger surged within me. As they approached the cashier, I witnessed something that left me utterly stunned. Peter was paying with a credit card. My heart sank as I realized it was my secondary credit card, the one I usually left in a drawer at home. He had taken it without my knowledge. The betrayal was deeper and more complex than I had imagined. Witnessing it firsthand was excruciating, but it provided me with the undeniable proof I needed. Now, I faced a crucial decision, knowing that whatever actions I took would affect not just my life but Stephen's as well. Over the past few months, while I invested in my home office, purchasing monitors, keyboards, and new furniture, I hadn't realized that Peter was exploiting this surge of activity to mask his deceitful spending. Both of our credit cards were linked to the same account, and amid my hectic schedule, I hadn't closely scrutinized the statements. This oversight now haunted me, painfully revealing that not only was Peter unfaithful, but he was also misusing my funds to pamper his mistress. Any lingering affection I had for my husband evaporated in the wake of this revelation. Although I partly blamed myself for not noticing sooner, I found it impossible to forgive his betrayal. I managed to capture a few clear photos of Peter and Nancy together and headed home, my mind seething with anger. In the days that followed, thoughts of revenge simmered in my mind. I began checking Peter's usual computer, knowing he left it unlocked when he was out. Digging through his messages with Nancy, I soon discovered their plans for a romantic getaway to Kagoshima over the upcoming long weekend, a 5-day escape that seemed like the perfect opportunity for retribution. But I faced one major challenge: ensuring that my son, Stephen, remained shielded from the ugly truth about his father. Once again, I reached out to my brother, hoping he could help by looking after Stephen. "Hey, could you watch Stephen for me over the long weekend?" I asked, bracing myself. He sounded supportive but surprised. "For all 5 days, Catherine?" "Mom, it's okay, I'm on your side," he said with a calm certainty that seemed beyond his years. "Are you sure, Stephen?" I asked gently, touched by his maturity. "I don't want anyone who makes you sad, Mom. As long as I have you, I'm okay," he replied confidently. I felt a swell of gratitude. "Thank you, Stephen, and thank you, too," I said, looking at my brother, who had given me both the support and clarity I needed. With Stephen and my brother beside me, I felt ready to face whatever lay ahead. I decided to take decisive action against Peter's betrayal, planning our move to a new home to coincide with his upcoming trip with Nancy. With my brother's help, we discreetly packed our belongings while Peter was out, working in quiet determination to prepare for our fresh start. The night before Peter's long weekend getaway, he was practically buzzing with excitement, and I decided it was time for a final confrontation. "Peter, what's with the suitcase?" I asked as he moved around, stuffing clothes into his bag. "Why are you packing?" "Oh, just heading out on a quick trip with a friend tomorrow," he replied casually, as if nothing were amiss. "A trip? When did you mention that?" I probed, hinting at my knowledge of his shady spending. He shot me an irritated glance. "Catherine, can we not do this right now?" he snapped, clearly agitated. Keeping my voice even, I asked, "Are you really just going with a friend?" My question made him pause, a flicker of guilt crossing his face as he realized how much I knew. His reaction was all the confirmation I needed. Despite his obvious guilt, he tried to brush off my concerns. "You've been so critical lately, Catherine," he muttered. "Fine, have a good time," I replied, my voice laced with sarcasm. Before leaving the room, if Peter had been honest, perhaps I would have considered a more amicable end to our relationship. After all, there was a time when he had been my support, helping me through my early struggles as a writer, but seeing how far he'd fallen, I knew it was time to protect my son and myself by moving on. The next morning, Peter was already gone when I woke up. I checked my drawer and, unsurprisingly, found my credit card missing. I immediately called the bank, reported the card as lost, and blocked any further transactions. Just as I was finishing up, my son Stephen walked in, his face bright with excitement. "Mom, today's the day, right?" he asked eagerly. "Today?" I was momentarily caught off guard. "We're moving to the new house," he said with a grin, his enthusiasm pushing away any lingering doubts. "That's right, Stephen," I said, smiling back. "It's time for us to start fresh." "Can we go now?" he asked, his excitement infectious. With my brother's invaluable help, we made the move quickly and smoothly. As we settled into our new home, a sense of freedom washed over me. Stephen's joy and resilience reminded me that this was the right choice. The next day, as we unpacked, my phone rang. It was Peter. "Catherine, I need you to transfer me some money. I went a bit over budget," he said, his tone surprisingly casual, as though nothing had changed. "Weren't you planning to stick to your allowance?" I asked, keeping my voice cool. "Come on, don't be like that. You're making this trip stressful," he complained. "Is Nancy feeling stressed, too?" I replied, finally cutting to the point. There was a pause on his end. "What are you talking about? Who's Nancy?" he asked, feigning confusion. "And what's going on with the card?" "Drop the act, Peter. I know everything. Did you really think I wouldn't find out about you and Nancy?" "It's not what you think," he said, his voice desperate. "I wasn't cheating." My anger flared at his weak denial. "Do you even hear yourself? You have a family, and yet you chose to betray us and misuse my money to indulge in this affair. Do you realize how low you've fallen?" "Catherine, let's not get carried away," he began, his tone shifting. But I wasn't interested in his excuses anymore. Surrounded by the support of my son and my brother, I felt a new strength. This chapter with Peter was closing, and the future, for Stephen and for me, was already beginning to look brighter. Calm down? How am I supposed to stay calm when I'm speaking to the person who shattered his family so carelessly? My voice was raw with the emotions I'd bottled up for far too long, finally spilling over. With those words, I ended the call, leaving a heavy silence in the room. My brother placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder, and Stephen looked up at me, his face a blend of worry and innocence. This moment, as painful as it was, marked the beginning of a new chapter for us, a chapter free from betrayal and deceit. Feeling both disgusted and resolute, I let Peter know exactly where I stood. I want to make this perfectly clear, I'm done. You and the woman you chose over your family can go straight to hell. Don't ever think about contacting me or Stephen again. With that, I hung up and blocked him, making it clear there was no turning back. Then, to my surprise, Nancy, the woman who betrayed me, called, her voice dripping with entitlement. Catherine, what are you doing? She demanded. Nice to hear from you, Nancy. How's your romantic getaway with your best friend's husband going? I replied, my tone loaded with sarcasm. Don't start with that. What's this about? She fired back. Oh, come on, you can drop the act. I know you sent Peter's things to my house. By the way, I hope your husband enjoyed the delivery, I said, feeling a vindictive satisfaction. During the move, I'd arranged to have Peter's belongings sent directly to Nancy's address. Knowing she was married, I made sure to include a detailed letter for her husband, explaining the situation clearly so he'd understand exactly what had been going on behind his back. As I confronted Nancy, she suddenly shouted, "Are you serious? My husband's furious. He wants a divorce." I didn't hold back. What did you expect? You had an affair with my husband, who you knew was married. My best friend did this. I can't even describe how low you've stooped. How dare you? She responded, outraged. Oh, I think that's my line, I retorted. You betrayed me first, Nancy. It was just a fling. I never intended to end up with him. Why would I settle for a jobless loser? She scoffed. Your intentions mean nothing to me. What matters is the betrayal. I cut through her excuses, leaving her with no more room to hide. I'm divorcing Peter, and I'm holding both of you accountable. I'll be seeking the full compensation you owe me, so prepare yourself. What? Compensation? That's ridiculous. Why should I have to pay anything? Nancy protested, her voice tinged with panic. It's simple. Actions have consequences, I said firmly. But I'm a housewife. I can't afford that, she stammered. Well,